The African Great Lakes region is once again teetering on the brink of a major crisis. The latest flashpoint is the long-simmering conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. At the heart of the current tensions are the deteriorating relations between South Africa and Rwanda. The death of South African peacekeepers in the DRC has brought these tensions to a boiling point. The situation is volatile, with accusations flying between Kigali and Pretoria. The international community is watching with growing concern. The African Union and the Southern African Development Community are trying to mediate, but the situation remains precarious. This is not just a bilateral dispute between two countries. It has the potential to destabilize the entire Great Lakes region. This region has a tragic history of conflict and instability. A new war is in no one's interest. The situation demands calm and restraint from all sides. A negotiated solution is the only way forward. The alternative is too ghastly to contemplate. The human cost of another war in the DRC would be immeasurable. The international community must use all its influence to prevent a catastrophic escalation of violence. This is a defining moment for the region. The choices made in the coming days and weeks will have far-reaching consequences. The DRC has been plagued by violence and instability for decades. The country is rich in natural resources, but these have often been a curse, rather than a blessing. They have fueled greed and conflict, making the DRC a magnet for armed groups and foreign powers. The current crisis is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the region. It also highlights the urgent need for a lasting solution to the conflict in the DRC. The recent deaths of South African soldiers serving under the SADC banner have poured fuel onto the already raging fire in eastern DRC. 13 soldiers lost their lives in a rebel attack near the city of Goma. This follows the deaths of 7 South African soldiers last year in similar circumstances. These casualties have sent shockwaves through South Africa and sparked outrage against Rwanda. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has directly accused Rwanda of being behind the attacks. He pointed the finger at the M23 rebel group, which he claims is a Rwandan proxy force. Ramaphosa issued a stern warning to Kigali, stating that any further attacks on South African troops will be considered an act of war. This strong rhetoric reflects the domestic pressure Ramaphosa is facing. The South African public is increasingly questioning their country's involvement in the DRC. Rwanda, however, has vehemently denied any involvement in the deaths of the South African peacekeepers. President Paul Kagame, known for his uncompromising stance, has dismissed the accusations as baseless and politically motivated. He has instead blamed the Congolese army for the attacks, accusing them of incompetence and collusion with other armed groups. Kagame has even gone as far as to accuse South Africa of being part of a belligerent force operating in the DRC, threatening a forceful response if provoked. This war of words between the two presidents has escalated the diplomatic crisis to new heights. Both sides seem entrenched in their positions, leaving little room for dialogue or de-escalation. Adding fuel to the fire are allegations from Kigali that Ramaphosa has personal mining interests in the DRC, a claim the South African president has so far ignored. The situation is highly volatile and the risk of a wider conflict is growing by the day. The international community needs to intervene decisively to prevent a disastrous escalation. To fully grasp the current crisis, one must delve into the historical baggage that has weighed down relations between South Africa and Rwanda for decades. Mistrust runs deep, and the conflict in the DRC has often served as a battleground for their competing interests and proxy wars. The seeds of this discord were sown long ago, poisoning the ground on which any hope for cooperation has struggled to grow. One pivotal moment in this troubled relationship came in 2014 when South Africa expelled Rwandan diplomats. This drastic action was taken in response to an attack on the life of Kayumba Nyamwasa, a Rwandan dissident living in South Africa. Pretoria accused Kigali of being behind the attack, further souring relations between the two countries. The expulsion marked a low point and highlighted the deep suspicion that had come to characterize their interactions. But the roots of the antagonism run deeper still. In 2002, then South African President Thabo Mbeki played a key role in brokering the Pretoria Peace Agreement, which aimed to end the Second Congo War. While hailed as a diplomatic achievement at the time, the agreement was seen by Rwanda as being disadvantageous to its interests. This perception fueled resentment towards South Africa, and its perceived interference in what Kigali considered its own sphere of influence. Adding to this toxic mix was the accusation in 2021 that Rwanda had been involved in espionage activities targeting President Ramaphosa. The allegation, which Rwanda denied, further strained relations and deepened the atmosphere of paranoia. This history of accusations, denials, and mistrust has created a climate where dialogue is difficult and the potential for misunderstandings is high. The conflict in eastern DRC is not simply a case of historical animosity boiling over. At the heart of this complex crisis lie tangible stakes, vast mineral wealth, and a struggle for regional dominance. Both Rwanda and South Africa, despite their denials, have significant economic and strategic interests in the DRC, and the ongoing conflict offers them opportunities to advance these interests, often at the expense of Congolese sovereignty and stability. Rwanda, a small, densely populated nation with limited resources, has long looked to its larger neighbor as a source of wealth and a strategic buffer zone. The mineral-rich eastern DRC, particularly the provinces of North and South Kivu, hold immense economic potential. Rwanda has been accused of supporting armed groups in the region, including the M23, to maintain influence and access to these valuable resources. The accusations, though consistently denied by Kigali, persist and fuel regional instability. South Africa, on the other hand, has positioned itself as a regional power broker and a champion of peace and stability in Africa. However, its involvement in the DRC is not without self-interest. South African businesses have expanded their footprint in the DRC since the 2002 peace deal, investing in mining, banking, and other sectors. The DRC represents a significant market and a source of raw materials for South African companies, making stability in the country economically beneficial. The current tensions, however, threaten these economic interests. New DRC regulations requiring local partnerships in the mining sector have raised concerns among South African businesses who fear losing their grip on lucrative contracts. This economic dimension adds another layer of complexity to the conflict, as both countries try to secure their economic interests while navigating a volatile political and security landscape. The stakes are high, and the risk of escalation remains a constant threat.